Today I'm going to talk about what is the difference between a twin flame chaser, codependent, an empath, and an anxious preoccupied. What are the similarities? And again, what are the differences? I'm going to start with the similarities because that's going to be the easiest. I generally talk about these people in one group because they have one thing in common, and I think is that they focus extremely on the partner on the relationship. So they are very connected to the body where the attachments are, and this is actually where those brain waves and those memories are stored that are more related to the childhood and the wounds from the childhood that they have suffered from or with the opposite gender parent. And when we grow up, this is what psychology says, that the things that we couldn't resolve, we recreate in the adult life. So we can recreate the same wound. And as an adult, if we become self-aware, we are going to create a different understanding of the same situation. And the reason for that is that we go through a development with three systems in the body: the reptile, the mammalian, and the cognitive or the primate level. And at certain time of our age, certain parts of these systems are going to be very dominant. And when we are very little, what it means is that although we have a brain, it doesn't have that objectivity. We even say that under age 8, 9, we do not have a critical filter. So anything that your parents say, you take it as 100% truth. That's why it's so difficult to override it, because it goes straight to your subconscious. And what that means is that all those wounds that you have experienced as a child are going to be created without the ability to see it objectively. So they were disconnected from your mind. And as an adult, what happens is all of these old wounds get re-triggered, giving you an opportunity to see it again. So it actually becomes your reality again, but now as an adult. So if you see it differently, you can override that old connection between your body and mind. But the problem is that we all have a setting in the system, in our nervous system, and is that it wants to reinforce itself because it kept you alive. And what it means is that if it kept you alive, it must be working. So this is the most primitive part of the nervous system that doesn't know anything. It's just what worked and basically what killed you. And if it worked, it's good enough because it's all about survival. But it's disconnected from these more sophisticated levels that see that survival is not enough. It has to be healthy and balanced and mature. So you have to engage with different parts of these systems to make different neurocommunications within you. And that's exactly why you can see that you are always with a different person, with different relationships, but you feel like you are stuck in a loop. That it's the person is different, but the relationship turns out to be the same. And this is the reason, this is the loop you are repeating, that there is something in the core, and it can be like many, many little things, and they become your reality. And if you don't understand that, what is happening, you will just keep repeating the same thing over and over and over until you realize, because this is how your nervous system can communicate with you. There is no other way. And the reason for this is because the trauma is stored in the body. And the only way to overcome a trauma, unfortunately, is that we have to relive it. This is a very good book about it. So we can create a very different understanding. We can see it more realistically. And more realistically means that we understand the other person, so we don't take it as personally. because as children we got very, very hurt, very deeply hurt, because we didn't have the understanding of where the other person was coming from. And it doesn't mean that the abuse wasn't abuse, it's just that you give other layers to it, that you understand where the parent was coming from, why the parent behaved that way. So it reduces your hurt in a way that it adds different elements to it. It's like there is this really hot water and you keep adding cold water to the hot water to cool it down. And this is where all of you are similar, that you try to resolve this childhood wound, but you cannot resolve the wound from the body. You have to engage with your head. So this is where you are also similar, that you have to really work on your head to make it stronger. And one of the things is that you look into how other people behave to understand where their behavior is coming from. And I always suggest look into the 4 attachment types, because this is your key problem, that you really want the relationship work, but if you don't understand the basics of it, then you won't be able to move forward. It's also very good to look into how emotionally mature people look like, what are the characteristics, and also how emotionally mature relationships look like. So instead of you are getting into, because you are more empathic, is my partner right or am I right? And you fully understand where they are coming from. You also add another element to it, because in reality you can really understand and you can really empathize with the person, because their inner experience is extremely valid. So if you see this way, then you get stuck because it makes equality. But that's when you add an extra element to it, and that is how an emotionally mature relationship looks like. What are the key ingredients? Because it doesn't matter how much you love the other person, it doesn't matter how much you understand the other person, it doesn't matter how much the other person loves you, if you don't have the requirements to an emotionally mature or healthy relationship, that relationship is going to be abusive for both of you. And if the other person doesn't see it, that there is something wrong and doesn't want to change, you are not obligated to stay with an unhealthy person at your own cost. And this is where self-love is coming into play, that you can only love the other person if you love yourself, because all of those resentments and anger is going to coming out of you. You are going to hurt your partner, you are just not going to realize it. And also your partner cannot expect to sacrifice yourself and be in a toxic relationship. That is not healthy. And this is what you have to learn, that you give self-love and you also give love to the partner, but you have to see if the relationship has actually any opportunity to move forward, to be a long-term relationship or not. And now let's talk about the differences. So at the very, very core, you all belong to the anxious preoccupied attachment type, who is very, very focused on the relationship, and that makes you codependent, that you depend too much on the partner. And the empath term comes in, that you feel a lot. But that has actually, all of these are on a spectrum. So not everyone is going to be exactly the same. And to make it healthier, what you can do is that actually your own opposite, that is going to be the twin flame runner or a more narcissistic person or a more avoidant person, you actually get those characteristics in you as well to create a balance. Because when you have both within you, first of all, you will understand the other person, and that is going to create a healthy, secure, that is going to be the secure attachment type, a secure person who is able to detach from the relationship when it's necessary, because you have to able to see that. Because if you are in this group, the problem is that you are in the relationship for too long. You are giving too many excuses, and that is not healthy. And then on the other hand, if someone is just in the other one, the runner or narcissist, they are too afraid of the relationship and they detach way too easily. But when you add these two together, that's when you get an emotionally mature person that can use, because basically what happens is within your brain and within your nervous system, you are just too much, there is too much neurocommunication in one part and there isn't enough in the other part. Some people would call it the soul, but it's basically, or frequency. Neurocommunication has frequency, that it's out of balance. And that's why when information comes in, only one part of the nervous system really sees it in one single way. So basically you have lots of blind spots. And what you do, you add certain elements to it to see it from a bigger picture, and that's when you become more objective about it. And the big difference is going to be when it comes to twin flames, because all of you are connected to this body. The body is very connected to the energies, and the body works in a way that it feels the attraction, because opposites attract. And on the head level, actually similarities attract. That's why when you get into a relationship with your own opposite, it becomes abusive, because on the body level, the attraction is there, but there is this automatic inner struggle that is built in us, that on the head level, the exact same chemistry is going to push you apart. But in reality, your nervous system just tries to show you what is missing from you. Because if you could understand the other person, if those elements would be in you, actually this abuse wouldn't happen, because you would understand what is happening. And chemistry, what you can feel. So first of all, probably I start with soulmate. So when you get into a soulmate relationship, or you can feel it's a soulmate when you are very similar to the person. So on the head level, your belief system, your values are similar, so you feel that you never felt so understood, and finally someone understands you. But in reality, you are just too similar, and you will know it for sure if it's a soulmate or not when it actually becomes a physical relationship, that on the physical level your body doesn't react because there is no oppositeness. Then when it gets to chemistry, chemistry feels as a warm-up in the heart, and also like when this is just my internal experiences. So you have to understand that everyone is different, and every single experience is subjective. That there is this warming up in the heart, and you can feel the energy just flickering. That's chemistry, and you can feel that. It's also like the person is quite different from you. And twin flame is going to be your exact opposite. So my experience was that you have this pull from the body, and it's like you feel like you are locked in. There is this energetic lock, and it's very automatic, and you can feel that it's like your nervous system becomes hypersensitive to that person. That's one of the things, but only to that one person. And you can even feel that the your energy, the sexual energy connects, and it just doubles, and it becomes 4 times, 6 times, and you can really feel that it's connected. And again, like depending on where you are, it can feel different. Okay, so just because you don't have exactly these experiences, it doesn't matter that your experience is not valuable. Because the main thing is, it's not really this, it's like, does the relationship change you? Because twin flame connections really want to change you, so it triggers up your own opposite within. So your real twin flame is actually within you. Those are those parts that are hidden from you. So basically it's like a somatic shadow work that it gets triggered. And a very common I would say, or distinct part is going to be that you change in a way that your behavior changes very drastically, and you are going to see very dark parts coming up that I'm just like, oh my God, is it really me? And you get surprised because those parts were really deep down hidden from you because you repressed it at a very young age as a child, and they are coming up, and now they are in the surface again to see it differently because your parents have taught you to repress those, or maybe you repress them. And this is the big difference with a twin flame, that a twin flame is able to trigger these parts up. And if you are not in a twin flame connection, they are going to be able to trigger you as well. It's just not as many. So basically, your relationship is not going to be as abusive, and your relationship is not going to be as risky, because there is a big problem with the twin flame community that they romanticize this, but they don't really talk about the risk factors that it's a soul, they call it a soul accelerator, and it is, but at the same time, if you don't know what to do, it can actually turn yourself against you and make you extremely suicidal. Because during my second twin flame connection, this is exactly what happened, and it came automatically. So I changed way too much because that was already my second twin flame. Because during the second twin flame, I embodied my own twin flame that was within me. What it means is, because so many people say you can have only one twin flame, but that's not true. Because as soon as you change, your frequency is going to change and opposites attract. So if you change, the person who was your opposite is not going to be your opposite anymore. And what that means is, like in the first one, I was the runner and I did a lot of inner work. And after that, I did a lot of inner work as well. And with the second twin flame connection, I actually got moved to become my own opposite, and I became the chaser. And you can see that if you are a chaser, the same person wouldn't be your opposite. So a chaser doesn't attract a chaser. A chaser is going to attract a runner. And this is how I had two twin flame connections. And my behavior was completely different. And when I recognized that both of them are kind of me, so there is a thinking process you have to go through, I could actually integrate these two parts of me, and I felt whole all the time, because this was my inner experience when I was in the second twin flame connection, that when I hugged my partner, I felt whole, and when he was away, I was in this extreme anxiety. It's separation anxiety, basically. And I went into this extra, like it's like I couldn't override myself. It's very, very disturbing. But as soon as I had the Kundalini awakening, that wholeness became a part of me, and I always feel whole ever since. And all of these extra energies that I felt around me became also a part of me, and my whole nervous system just calmed down. And I had multiple mystical experiences ever since. And this is where I know that there is a deeper meaning of twin flames, but you have to go through a lot of development, and it's like little by little, because I had lots of relationships, and you always learn something. So you shouldn't focus on, okay, there is this one twin flame and this is my ultimate goal to find that one person. No, you have to go through a lot of struggle, a lot of learning in order to get there, because even if you get there but you are not ready yet, you won't be able to change, because that's the whole point of it, that you change and you integrate with yourself. The point is not to stay together with the partner, and many times your life goal, or the lesson you have to learn, is that you have to let the person go. That was my lesson as well, that I have to let him go, to let him actually change, because the runner's problem that they cannot let the other person too close. So he has to realize that he had made a mistake, so he can regret that. And if he regrets that, he is going to have a very different life in an upcoming life, and this is when we are supposed to meet again. And love doesn't mean possession. Love doesn't mean control. Love means that you have the other person wake up, even if it means that you have to leave the other person. Because the goal is to self-integrate. The goal is to become whole. That's the point of twin flame connections, and also the point of why we are on in this reality, to become the wholeness who we already are. We are just not aware of it. So we gain this awareness by connecting energetically to our energies by the help of other energies, and also change the pattern system in the head that allows to keep those energies together. And the deeper part to it is, this is from my channelings and my mystical experiences, that we are going to become fourth dimensional. And twin flames are going to help you actually if you know what to do. And what that means is that you are a part of your true self. And your true self is lots of versions of you. I don't know how many versions exist. And you have these versions, and the I call them representation of something. So in this life I represent change, and in the other life that I got connected to, this is what caused the Kundalini awakening, I actually represented love. And my twin flame partner in this life represents love as well. And representations mean oppositeness. It means paradox. It means duality. But you cannot solve the duality within. You have to see it from a different point of view. Because that's how, just imagine if these versions could solve themselves in their own, all of these versions wouldn't connect into one wholeness. And what this means is that in that past life, because I got a lot of memories from the past life, love doesn't mean just love on its own. It means the paradox of love. That I was an anxious preoccupied, or the chaser, or the codependent, because I was so in love with my partner. But I have lost my partner. He died. And I actually committed suicide in that past life. And before I died, I made a decision. I can remember that, and I can remember the feelings. So you actually channel the feelings of your past life as well. That I will never love again. So who I was, I became my own opposite. So I went from an anxious preoccupied to even avoidant, or I can say that from a chaser to a runner. And in this life, in this version of myself, I actually started as a runner or an avoidant. And throughout lots of struggles, I didn't give up, and I flipped again. This was with the two twin flames, that I moved from a runner and I became a chaser. So I became my own opposite again. So I have this other version of me with the opposite, and here the opposite. And this twin flame partner, who is the runner, was triggering this because he represents love as well. But again, it means that he is going to change, because from a runner, he will have to become a chaser. He has to regret that he didn't stay with me. And that's my help to him, that this is what he has to do in order to become this paradox, and in order to give him a chance that in another life he can integrate him with himself. Anyways, and when I could see that him and me were exactly the same, so this was the video I've seen that said that twin flames mirror each other in their weaknesses, and they are the same. They just don't see it. And I started to see the weaknesses, and I started to see the similarities with actually me as now than my previous version, who I was the runner, and also him compared to that as a runner. And I made lots of inner work, like during the same day, all of these patterns that, okay, what is where, how it is, how I felt, how I saw, what's the difference, what's the similarity, lots of things. And that's when I had my very first Kundalini awakening. And I didn't really understand what that was exactly, but what that was, because these other versions are in the unconscious. So you have the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious. And the unconscious is the deep energies and neurotransmitters. These are your lowest brainwaves, your delta brainwaves. And I got connected to that. So I had more energy coming into the body, and that actually triggered the head, because they must overcorrect. So if you have more energies bursting in the body, then the head part is going to be pushed as well, and that creates this extreme anxiety and extreme overwhelm that people can actually experience after an awakening. And if you cannot resolve that, it can turn into psychosis, and it can be very, very difficult. So you have to work a lot on your head to make something out of it, so you can calm your nervous system down, because otherwise, again, like you keep getting stuck in a loop, and it can be very, very dangerous. That's why it's not enough to find your twin flame. You have to be able to ready, and be ready means that your mindset is ready to see things. It's not about to be perfect, it's about to be flexible, that okay, I know that I have to be able to see it from different perspectives, to make a sense out of it. And again, it's not about perfection, it's just okay, get to a setting that makes me calm, and then I will do a little bit again and again, and you have the ability to change. You don't have this rigidity that okay, now I know and it's 100% truth, because reality is about constant change. So you create a setting that you can constantly change, and you have this mindset that you can change and change and change and change. And what it means that you see things always from more and more and more and more perspectives. And this is how you can actually integrate with your twin flame as well, that you trying to see the same thing from a very different perspective, and see which one is going to work for you. Because it doesn't matter how many videos you are going to watch, twin flames connect with your individuality. And individuality means that you have to find out those very specific things that are only true about you, and only you can find those parts within you by trying to really see who you are, what are your motivations, because no amount of videos can tell you. You are the only one who can tell you. These videos can just help you to realize that you also have to look on your own. You have to become from this child self, because this is the child self, the adult, and the adult can see it, because this adult self that you see out now, these are the videos, they can just give you some guidance, but there is an adult, a separate adult self that is coming from this child self from here, because this adult self connects back on the front, because there are two parts to your nervous system. When it's coming from the back, the impulse comes up to your head. It creates a communication, and this communication is going to decide how you feel. So if you change these settings, your internal experience is going to change significantly. I hope this video was very helpful for you, and see you in my next video.